Got to go on record. So I stood witness to a lot of things. And I didn't just stand witness to an illegal war and the illegal abuse of troops as a drill sergeant. I stood witness to Katrina. I was in Katrina 3 days after it hit. You know what happened on that day? They blew the levees. You dig? They're down there telling Americans that a hurricane hit and they wiped out a black population. Duh. You know what I mean? They just lying all over town. And if you know this, you got to go on record, man. It's spiritual for me. And I didn't go to church. My father was educated and raised by Jesuits. He kept me away. He said, stay away. They will beat you up and treat you wrong. I don't know, I was never treated wrong by anybody in any church, but I mean, conceptually, you can see where the book he showed me, which was Eric Hoffler's The True Believer. If you haven't read that book, you need to open that book and read it. It makes a very, very important statement. Really what he talks about, you know, in that vein of Marshall McLuhan, he talks about most people will not walk out into the middle of the street and start pissing in it. They just won't. They won't walk out into the middle of the street and just start pissing in it. But a group of 2 or more will. You get together with the fellas, you'll drop your drawers and you'll start pissing anywhere. Because that's the way it is. When you get collective, you start working together, you're willing to get outside of yourself a little bit. But he makes an even more important statement in this book. He says, faith, paramount faith in religion, and that organization of it stems and comes from lost faith in yourself. If you're laying it all off on God, and you think he's running the whole thing, you might be a little bit off. You still got an obligation. You cannot just look at the man or woman or whatever that force or spirit might be and say, man, it's your fault, it sucks. And you can't do that. You got to get your nose dirty. You got to get in it, whether you're a Nazarene, whether you're an Essene, whatever religion you belong to. You got to get into it, but you got to have a departure point that they all say is love and kindness. If that's not your departure point, then you're not a Muslim, a Christian, or any of it. George Bush is not a Christian just because he says so and goes to church on Sunday. You dig? That's not the reality of any of this. The reality is that we're all in it together, and we have to go on record. See, people are getting a little bit more afraid to go on record because they think there's a bullet that's the response to them going on record. That's not the case. They do not have time to kill everybody right now. They want to kill us all at once. They want to do it in the Jim Jones style, everybody all at once. Kill everybody all at once. They're not going to pick us off one at a time. They're not going to get me and then next week get Loren Murray and the week after that get Doug Rocky and maybe come around and get Mr. Tarpley one day and then a week after that they're going to send some people out to get Peter Dale Scott. They don't have time. They don't have the resources. They're dumping their money on mass destruction. That's why we keep hearing it. They want it all gone all at once. They don't have time to chase Andrew and me out separately. We've got to get together so when they do start chasing, we're working together. It's so important, it's so paramount that we foster community, develop dialogue, have conversations, and work with people we don't like. Every time I go somewhere, I usually bump into somebody who I don't agree with. It just happens. It happened like that ever since I was a child. And then sooner or later they tell you, don't hit them because you don't like them. Don't hit them because you don't agree with them. And you start evolving into a way of life where we're not doing that. But we haven't gotten there, man. And see, I'm a musician. That's what I want to be doing. It's not that I don't want to know you and be communal and be in harmony with you, but I don't want to have to do it this way. You know, I'm a musician. And if you take a look at like the movie like Hair, if you've seen it, this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. We're in the age of Aquarius. The Aquarian age means we're 21. It means we're adults. It means we should know how to behave like adults. And in the country I come from, the adults aren't behaving like adults. They're behaving, and they're not even behaving childlike in that jovial smile that you see in a number of cultures where it's sort of childlike, like the Irish culture, which is what I am. I'm Irish, and we're very childlike. But we're not that childish. We have a very deep cellular memory of being assaulted by the English. You dig? So that's our cellular memory. That's what my childhood is. It isn't white on black. It isn't white on brown. My childhood is white on white. That's what I heard from my grandfather. That's what I heard from everybody, a white on white transaction. See, that's where we're at. This idea is that they don't care about anybody. They don't care about anything except themselves. And that's the bottom line. Those are like Kyne's 5 rules. People operate out of self-interest, period. Even me. I'm here out of self-interest, self-preservation, whatever we want to call it. The other thing is people don't change. No matter how much money you give them, no matter how much they say they will, and no matter how much they promise you, they don't change. George Bush is not going to change. Donald Rumsfeld is not going to change. Now, that kind of puts me in tension with myself, right? Because I ain't the same guy I was. But I don't think I've necessarily changed. I think I have the same core value system that my parents laid on me. I think I have the same character of happiness. I think happiness is a reflection of character, not circumstances. But I don't think I'm a different human. I think, as I was saying in the other room, I was given the wrong information. The information is vital. I'm the same person with different information. If I'd been given the right information, I'd still be the same person. I haven't changed much. I'm still pretty conservative financially, and I'm still pretty liberal socially. I grew up in the Bay Area. I grew up around punk rockers in Berkeley, queers in Santa Cruz, the brothers in Oakland, and the hippies in San Francisco. That was my game. I got everywhere I went, it was like a cartoon, man. I was like, let's do it. It's great. I come from a community in Berkeley, it's punk rock, so it's do-it-yourself. Everything is do-it-yourself in the punk rock community. So my albums and my book are all self-produced. I did them all on my own. That's the message as we're moving into this. And Andrew, I got your questions in a couple minutes because what I'm talking to you about is that we have to go on record. Doesn't matter what your story is, you all have a song to sing. You all do. You all have something that the world needs to hear. And you need to go on record about it. Whether you're an artist doing music, whether you're writing a book, whether you're painting a picture. Marshall McLuhan, who I dedicated my presentation in there to, says the revolution comes out of the arts. He says the first thing you're going to see is a change in the artistic community, and that's going to be your first hope in your revolution. Well, you can see what they've done to the arts. They've commoditized, commercialized, marginalized, and mediocratized all of it. But art still has contrast and resolution. It still has tension and release. It offers us everything we need to do to alter our way of thinking. They say if you just do a couple of lines on a piano as a child, your brain stretches out into areas where it just normally doesn't go. Just because of those sounds. Maybe to you, if you're in that way, it's Om. But you dig. Music, chakras, you do whatever you feel like doing, but my point for where we're going to head into is that we've got to go on record. If we're not willing to go on record, then we're not willing to make the first step in reaching out. Reaching out, we have to have confidence in when we reach out to people. We have to be able to say, Andrew, I want to hear what you have to say, and I'm not afraid of your question because I might not know the answer, I might be wrong, I might be afraid of being embarrassed or ashamed of chewing on my tongue for too long and looking like an idiot. What's your question, Andrew?
I got a couple of them. First of all, do you think it was more than likely the CIA, FBI that planned 9/11? Do you think it was CEOs of big corps, or do you think it was a bit of both? Who do you think might have really been behind 9/11?
I love to speculate. I don't find any value in it, but I love to. And I think that the Bushes are the dirtiest family on the earth.
I would agree with that.
And I think
Rockefeller.
well, but I'm not going to say if we want to stretch to another continent or country, yes, we know the Rockefellers own the Bushes. And we can do, I've done all the chronological corporate family lines and bloodlines. But for the point of what we're doing right now in America is the Americans have forgotten what happened in Germany. Just like the Japanese forgot what happened in Hiroshima. I mean, I was in Japan in August, and I'm telling you, there's people in Japan that they think Hiroshima is like the kids, they don't even know. They're not, I mean, so the Bushes, people forget that this is a Nazi family. They forget that the Bushes and George Bush Sr. campaigned in 1964 against the Civil Rights Act, which historically would have been the John F. Kennedy Civil Rights Act. But he was assassinated, so it became the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And George Bush Sr. campaigned against it in 1964, which means that guy's he's a racist. He's right out of Strom Thurmond. He's right out of Trent Lott. He believes in genocide. He believes in eugenics. He just isn't quite... Well, his handlers aren't dumb enough to tell him to start saying that stuff. But, I mean, we continue to make comparisons to the Third Reich, and we're saying this is the Fourth Reich. The one we tend to forget and neglect is the eugenics programs. And if you don't believe, Andrew, I think you're on Strauss, right? Well, Straussian rhetoric, which we heard from Mr. Marshall in this room yesterday, I believe, comes out of the University of Chicago. Leo Strauss left Germany, and what happened was after the World War II war, Russia and the U.S. split up the trophies. The trophies were the nuclear scientists. The nuclear scientists came to the University of Chicago, the same university Leo Strauss was at. I mean, that's the whole hub of the whole thing is right there at the U of Chicago. So the Bushes, man, it's the Bushes. People want to tell me, hey, man, it's AIPAC, it's Israel, man, it's this. I said, man, it's a U.S. hegemony. And these guys are Nazis. And if you want to get complicit with anything else, I mean, go ahead. I can't speculate much further than that. But the evidence is clear and it's in that Prescott Bush is the beginning of this, and that we're living that dream still today.
Oh, and my other question was, what's still troubling me is that I know that the U.S. got calls from German intelligence, the Russian President Vladimir Putin, that attacks are going to happen on the states. So what do you believe this suggests? Do you believe that the Germans and Russians may have planned it along with the states, or do you believe that the states planned it along with the 19 hijackers, 10 of whom are still alive? We're going to have questions afterwards.
No, we got it, Drew. Everything's cool.
So do you believe that the Germans and Russians planned along with the states, or do you believe that the states simply planned these attacks along with the 19 named terrorists, 10 of whom are still alive, who obviously weren't on the plane? I mean, what do you think about all that?
What do I think about?
Yeah, just the fact that they had warnings that these.
Well, I think what our government does is they release information to validate their events. You know what I mean? Let's let the Russians know we're going to bomb ourselves. Then they'll believe that. Do you dig? Do you get what I'm saying to you? We release our own information, which is the basis of their intelligence. It's bad information, though. They're releasing bad information to everybody. That's the game. Simultaneously, what they're doing is they're closing off our borders and locking us in so you and I won't communicate. So yeah, I do. I think that our government was giving out information, knowing what they were up to, but I don't really know, who the complicit parties are. All I know is that when I look as a military man, I say, "Where's the F-14s?" Duh.
Yeah.
Sir.
I heard you mention Jonestown. We happen to know Jim Jones.
I told him about it.
We lived in San Francisco. Well, the rest of the people don't know about it. He came to our church. We went to his church. We had quite a bit in common, and we just don't believe the story that we hear supposedly happened at Jonestown.
Right.
So
And
I think
I agree with you. Michael Franti sings about it in songs out of Oakland, California. He sings that, what about Jonestown? They want to talk about, the crimes black people commit, but they don't want to talk about Jonestown,
Did you put it in the right context that I had expressed to you about Jim Jones?
No, I wasn't contextual with it. What I was saying is that we're just misinformed all the time, and that happens to be a particular event. And then let me catch your question real quick right there, and then I'm going to move into a different section real quick. Yeah.
Okay, my brother-in-law, he was in the First Gulf War, Oregon National Guard, and he told me everybody that this unit has a problem, and he has leukemia, right? And I was wondering, I have two questions. Do you think the leukemia is from depleted uranium? And also, the main question I want is, I'm trying to wake him up about 9/11 and all these other things, and he doesn't get it.
Right. So,
And how can I wake him up? Or is this what a lot of people feel?
has he heard of depleted uranium?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it's pretty much guaranteed. What he has to watch out for is whether he contracts some more damaging or fatal version of cancer. I mean, leukemia is that's the first cancer you diagnose because it only takes 3 hits on a cell. If a cell has any more hits than that, they start diagnosing is it a different cancer. You dig? So that's just a very simple way to get a guy into chemo or radiation therapy. You dig? You can't take soldiers who've been exposed to radiation, tell them they have cancer, and then radiate them. So, and it's happening. And so this depleted uranium, and the statistic I cited in there, for months I walked around saying 100% increase in childhood leukemia in Iraq, but it's actually 1,000%. And that's confirmed. I was in Oregon at Portland State University speaking. Ron Davis is in the audience. He was transporting me around, and I was saying 100%. He's like, I just typed it into my computer. You add another 0. I go, I thought that was it, but I was scared to say it. You got to be confident in your evidence. You got to be strong in your facts. You know, I walked around for a long time saying a ton was 2,600 pounds. I always knew it was 2,200. You know, we're going to slip sometimes. We're going to make mistakes. People are going to tell you you're a fucking idiot, 2,600 pounds. Oh, yeah, I slipped. I made a mistake, but God, you can't trash all my evidence because of it. We have to stand convicted. We have to go on record all the time. And that's what I did. I mean, Marshall McLuhan's talking about the medium is the message. That's where the battlefield is. That's what Reveille is to the resistance. That's what Beyond Treason is, the depleted uranium movement. And that's what all the documentaries are to the 9/11 movement. Waco Rules of Engagement. My girlfriend got that from Santa Clara University in 1996 or 7. You dig? I watched that video so long ago. I took it home and I said, Dad, look at this shit. He said, they've been doctoring, making films like that for years. That ain't nothing. I said, oh, no, I think this is something. Yeah. But he'd never been in the military. He never drove a tank. He didn't know anything. But it's those films that will catch your brother. Pick one and have a conversation, give it a preface, hand it to him and say, I need you to watch it. I need you to watch. I need you to. And I need you to have a conversation with me. I know there's a potential that we are going to disagree, but I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with disagreement. I'm comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm comfortable with all of the uncertainty. You see, it's the uncertainty that screws everybody up. That's what they're afraid of, is looking out the window and not knowing what's going to hit them. It's the uncertainty that's strangling them, that they might say something and get killed. Give it up. The whole thing is uncertain, and we live in basically an unscripted world. Even these clowns that are running the United States of America are working with no script. I mean, I keep hearing people, well, they said this in '83 and they did this, but remember that our political system doesn't have any continuity. That's the problem. That's why they get to sell the COG. That's why Zoe Lofgren says, well, Dennis, I wasn't in Congress when we declared war. Okay, well, you're in there now. Can you declare no war? You dig? So they don't know what they don't even, you get a degree in political science, you never read the Constitution. You don't get introduced to what the Trilateral Commission is. You don't know any of the real stuff that's going on. What you know is that most Americans hate Marx and most people like Smith. Yeah, have a degree. You know? And that's what's going on over there. So when we go on record, you know, it's not that I gave up on my book or gave up on my music, but what I found of the mediums, this is the one. This is the one because everybody's on the couch, eating, smoking, drinking, and they're on the couch, and they're sleeping, fornicating, and doing everything else on the couch, and there goes that TV. I mean, there are people get up, turn the TV on, and that's it. My mom turns the TV on. Laundry, dinner, TV's just in the background. Well, let this be the background. Let this be the background. Let us create the background. See, we have to go on record. We have to propagate this thing over and over again repetitively. We have to be consistent in our message. We have to do it over and over again. And we have to alter the way they think. Not abusively, not dogmatically, not judgmentally, not hatefully, not spitefully, not resentfully, not regrettably. I need you to do this. I love you, as Dr. Joe says. I need you to know the truth. I love you. Yes, in the back. This is my last one. You got it if you want it. I got one Reveille, and I have 2 of these. Now I want to talk to you about this. This is a whole different concept because, you know, I'm talking about integrating movements. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, man, let's get the resistance.